She looked like a princess from a fairy tale. Completely happy and accompanied by her father, the 8th Earl Spencer, Diana bewitched not only the nation but the world at her marriage to Prince Charles on July the 29th, 1981. It was the start of a golden age for the British royal family. The 20-year-old Lady Diana Spencer, the first English girl in 500 years to marry a Prince of Wales. The eyes of the world were on her, and she knew it. She was born Diana Frances Spencer on July the 1st, 1961, daughter of an aristocrat and friend of the royal family. Before she was linked with Prince Charles, she was just an anonymous face in London's Bedsitter-land, a shy English rose from an illustrious family, but a family traumatised by the divorce of her parents. The publication of this picture, which embarrassed her, was her first real brush with photographers, the start of a love-hate relationship with the camera that endured all her life. In February 1981, the waiting was over and Buckingham Palace announced the couple's engagement. She was asked how she would cope with the enormous transition to royal life and the prospect of one day becoming queen.
It is, but I've had a small run out to it all in the last 6 months. And next to Prince Charles, I know I can't go wrong. He's there with me.
Gibraltar was the starting point for the honeymoon, a brief public appearance followed by a 2-week cruise on board Britannia along the Mediterranean. Relaxed, refreshed and ready for the future, they returned to Balmoral, the world's media eagerly awaiting them.
Have you cooked a breakfast yet?
Diana's youthful naturalness made her a hit with all ages wherever she went. The marriage, at least publicly, seemed a perfect match, and within a year Prince William was born in June 1982. But the pressures of such a high-profile royal life were beginning to show. Diana was said to be suffering from postnatal depression here on this royal tour to Australia. There were rumours, too, that she was suffering from the slimmer's disease, anorexia nervosa, rumours that were dismissed by the palace. The royal roadshow continued, however, with Diana, now confident and fashion-conscious, taking the world by storm. In 1983, and Diana was becoming the world's #1 cover girl. And a year later, the princess with the fashion model looks gave birth to a second son, Prince Harry. With her children growing up, Diana immersed herself in charity work, taking on AIDS as one of her big causes, the princess helping to destigmatise the illness. But the marriage was beginning to fall apart, with the couple only seen together at times of national crisis. In private, they were leading separate lives. Then, in 1992, came the bombshell that was to destroy the myth of the happy royal marriage forever, with the publication of Diana, Her True Story by Andrew Morton. The couple continued to tour together, but it was obvious that the marriage was over. Diana vowed to continue with her charity work, but there soon followed a series of scandalous tape recordings featuring her and a male companion, then Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles. The final straw came when a paper published pictures of her working out in a gym. She decided enough was enough.
I was not aware of how overwhelming that attention would become.
The last few years of the marriage were marred by unhappy and very public declarations of marital unhappiness. First, Prince Her divorce from Charles was announced a year later. Diana was to embark on life as a single woman, still a princess, but now able to pursue her dream of becoming a roving humanitarian, free from the constraints of Buckingham Palace. Tim Wilcox, ITN.
The princess's every move was followed, recorded and scrutinised by the press. Whether trying to steal a few precious moments on holiday with her children and friends, or simply trying to work out at her London gym. Photographers and editors alike knew her face, and the fairy tale that went with it would always sell. Most recently, photos taken of the princess in Saint-Tropez with Dodi Fayed sold for hundreds of thousands of pounds. The Sunday newspaper that bought them raised its price and its print run. In her interview with Panorama, the princess said she was all too aware of her value.
It took a long time to understand why people were so interested in me, but I assumed it was because my husband had done a lot of wonderful work leading up to our marriage and our relationship. But then during the years, you see yourself as a good product that sits on a shelf and sells well.
Calls for tougher laws that would have afforded the princess greater protection were recently rejected. Today, the government said it was too early to say what changes, if any,
the princess was forever on the move, a restless lifestyle, never out of the public eye. Unburdened, it seemed, by heavy security. This was the image the princess chose to portray. The caring campaigner for humanitarian causes. Here, against landmines in Angola. She'd cut down on the causes she worked for, but the cruel injuries inflicted by mines, long after conflicts like Bosnia had ended, affected her deeply. Her fame generated huge publicity for what were once little-known issues. Simply by being photographed with the disabled victims of landmines ensured those working to remove them won unprecedented support, even in the White House. By now, her fame as an ambassador for good causes was truly international, and she was seen with some of the world's most celebrated figures. She seemed at ease in a role she developed for herself and was greeted enthusiastically wherever she went. She was named Humanitarian of the Year in America and mixed with that nation's most powerful and influential figures. Here with Colin Powell, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and Henry Kissinger, the former Secretary of State. The princess's sincerity in this role impressed America.
They seem to possess a never-ending supply of compassion for their child.
It wasn't always so high-powered. She twice flew to Pakistan to support Imran Khan's cancer hospital. And it was here that a photograph of a caring Diana cradling a sick child was to spark her last and controversial press interview. That photograph inspired the French daily Le Monde. Her interview started a political controversy on landmines, and this being just after she celebrated her 36th birthday party in London, she said press intrusion in her private life was so bad she'd have abandoned Britain years ago, were it not for her sons. But her taste for a high-profile lifestyle, this was Gianni Versace's memorial service in Italy, sometimes sat uneasily in the minds of the British public with the role of mother of the heir to the throne. Her response was to escape from the pressures of public life, press pursuit and judgmental columnists who had an opinion on every facet of her life. Even the wisdom of a trip to the cinema or a holiday on Muhammad Al Fayed's yacht was questioned when the royal princes were involved. It was her friendship and holidays with Dodi Al Fayed, the Harrod's heir, that ensured the last weeks of her life were never out of the headlines. Dodi Al Fayed seemed to give the princess the close companionship she sought. Her charm, her elegance and her popular appeal stepped outside the boundaries of establishment tradition. The princess seemed to give Britain its first truly modern royal. Ian Glover James, ITN.
At school at Eton, where he's been studying for his GCSEs, he's treated as just one of the boys, a status he's said to treasure and is keen to preserve. His school and the friendships he's made there could be a source of great strength as he tries to come to terms with his loss. His younger brother Harry is a more outgoing character. Diana was said to be less worried about his future, regarding his self-confidence and physical courage as a positive trait. He may join William at Eton, but for now he's at Ludgrove School, where staff were said today to be shocked and devastated by the news. Diana, always a picture of the devoted mother, said recently she would have left Britain if it hadn't been for her sons. Now they, who were always going to have difficult childhoods, must grow up without the support of their loving mother. Harry Smith.
My sister was out in St. Bart's when she went out on holiday. Sorry, this is in Spain when she went out on holiday with her friend.
I mean,
and this is at the airport.
She's clearly not happy there, is she?
No, she's not happy at all. But as you can see, I mean, we had to do the pictures of the still
immense aura surrounding her. Can you just talk a bit about the effect she had on people?
Well, yes, it's interesting because I saw her for the last time, talked to her in June when she was presenting her dresses at Christie's in London. And I was a little bit worried because I hadn't seen her in the flesh for some time, and I wondered whether I was going to find this rather fragile individual that some people had been writing about, but not at all. You're quite right. She was extremely healthy, almost Californian, bronzed, very bright, just the same as ever, quick, amusing, friendly, making you feel that you were the one person she wanted to talk to.
There we see her talking to a little girl, getting the bouquet of flowers, and complete concentration, nothing false about that, is there?
Absolutely, and that was the two things that you'll find that the most successful princesses in history are ones who love children and care for the sick. Now, this is something which can't be faked, and in her case it was absolutely inherent and genuine. And of course, as far as the caring for the sick is concerned, this has already been discussed with Ron Allison.
You and your team shot there, Steve.
Yeah, now of course, most of these victims, well in fact all of these victims, didn't know who the princess was. But they were just pleased that someone was interested. But it was amazing. She's got this magic touch, as I'm sure you've been talking about today. Especially with the
favourite pose there with a child
especially
on her
with
knee.
these amputees. She's very tactile, and where other people may get embarrassed about injuries like this, she didn't. She sat right there, she talked to them about their injuries, and that was the magic she had, and she sort of lifted everybody's day.
Did you talk to any of the people after she'd had a chat with them, hugged them, touched them? I mean,
yeah.
What effect did she have?
She was a very uplifting presence there. They are a people who are very impoverished, and they think they're forgotten by the entire world. They don't even know that the rest of the world knows they exist. But this visit from a princess, as they were told she was a princess, although they didn't know who, it was just very uplifting for her. But of course, it wasn't without its controversy, this trip, because while she was there, while she was walking through this minefield, back in the UK, one MP called her a loose cannon, and she confronted that head-on as well. She didn't understand why she was getting criticism. They say she was treading on politics, but she said, look, I'm a humanitarian, I'm not a politician, I'm a humanitarian, I'm only trying to do my best to help. And that's the way she told us all she wanted to be seen in the future.
But she let it be known very subtly that she was upset by that criticism, didn't she?
Oh yes, oh yes. I mean, she was unprepared for one reason, but also she was because she kept saying, she said, I don't understand why
the Jonathan Dimbleby interview with her then husband, Prince Charles. There it is, meeting Lord Palumbo there, I think.
In fact, I saw a copy of it the other day at a fashion fair, and I think a lot of copies of those have been sold.
And of course, all the photographs on the front pages the next day were of the princess.
Well, exactly. Well, I mean, she's much more photogenic than, obviously, Prince Charles.
Would it be true to say she loved clothes, she loved what they could do for her?
I think she liked them, but in the context that lots of girls do like clothes. We've got a wider variety of things that we can wear than most men, so we're a bit spoiled from that. And not to the point of addiction about clothes, I wouldn't have thought so, no.
It was also said that... Well, these are the pictures which brought her to the attention of millions around the world and helped win her a special place in all of their hearts.
Yeah, I'm only trying to highlight a problem that's going on all around the world. That's all. Life is mostly froth and bubble. Two things stand like stone. Kindness in another's trouble, courage in your own.
Was just as concerned about problems on her own doorstep. She devoted many hours helping the homeless here at the Centrepoint shelter in London. Following her divorce, Diana announced that she would be reducing her workload, but the AIDS charity, the London Lighthouse, remained a priority. And there was work with numerous hospitals. Recently, she was at the Royal Brompton publicising cystic fibrosis. She also spent time, both publicly and privately, with sick children at Great Ormond Street.
She had such an extraordinary quality of warmth, and she didn't hold back at all. If there was someone who was particularly sick who was keeping in the background, she would know that she would somehow sense that they were there, and she would make her way to them and she would talk to them and to their parents. And she gave enormous warmth, and she gave these people something that would stay with them all their lives.
At a glamorous gala evening in New York 2 years ago, she was presented with the Humanitarian of the Year award for her charity work. But it was with the people for whom the princess cared so much that she seemed most fulfilled. And now the thousands of victims around the world that she was trying to help will feel that they have lost their voice. Ben McCarthy, ITN.
Ah, look at that. A prayer being said. Another child. Look at all those flowers there. Look. Some suggestion earlier that the police had tried to clear them away, and the crowd said no, leave the flowers. And there will be many, many more of them.